About 2 years ago, I was actually robbed and I was assaulted by police while traveling. All in the same day. I really thought that like people would be kind and I don't know, it was just very hard. It was very hard for me to really experience the lack of compassion. So I was just like, I don't know what just happened, but I'm on the floor, somebody's on top of me. I just start screaming because that's the only thing I could do. Mind you, the 9 men who I was with, ooh, I'm getting emotional. I gained confidence back again in humanity. And for me, it's these stories that I really want to share with y'all. Hey, my name is LaJoie. Welcome to my channel all about travel, wellness, and transformation. I'm also known as the Solo Travel Queen because I spent more than 4 years solo traveling in countries all over the world. And I'm so proud of myself, and I'm proud of the people who I have inspired to travel around the world to transform their lives. And I'm so happy and grateful that you are here on my channel to do the same. But it wasn't always like this. About 2 years ago, I was actually robbed and I was assaulted by police while traveling. All in the same day. Crazy, I know. That was a really hard time for me. I was actually robbed by my taxi driver. He took literally everything I had. My whole life was basically packed in 3 or 4 bags. And he took literally everything from me. And that was a very hard lesson to learn. So that is why on my channel, I have a lot of content about how to be safe and what to do and what not to do. Mostly what not to do, okay? While traveling, I use this character called AM Money. She's kind of a novice traveler, and you kind of can learn from her mistakes of what not to do when you solo travel, because I really want more people to solo travel. I want more people to see the world, because I really do believe this is the way that we can really unite the world. We can really connect with each other on a deeper, meaningful level. Not just travel and see a country for 1 or 2 days or a week, but really make meaningful connections so we can have a happier life and a happier world. It was a very hard point 2 years ago. That day was very difficult for me. I think that was one of the hardest days of my life. Because like I said, in the morning, like the day I landed, the hour I landed, within the hour I landed in this location, everything was taken away from me. And it was a very hard experience because I didn't know what to do. So when my taxi driver drove off with all of my stuff, it was literally kind of ideal for him in the middle of a highway. And all I could think in that moment was like, I told myself, it's okay, I can still get it back. I just need to get somebody to help me, and I will be able to get my stuff back. I can just hop in the car. I can find a car within 1 minute. Somebody will help me and I can get all my stuff back. We can chase them down. So I proceed to wave down a car. And after like 5 minutes, I realize nobody's pulling over. I start to lose hope and I start crying. So I'm literally waving in the middle of the street, telling people to like pull over, please help me. And while I'm crying. So of course, like, you know, human beings the way that they are right now, nobody pulled over to help. And it was really frustrating because I was just like, you know, I think one of the biggest things, one of the lessons for me was that I didn't look like a foreigner. I looked like one of the locals in this country. So I think for people driving, they're like, oh, it's just another crazy person. Luckily, after 10 minutes, somebody finally pulled over, and it was crazy too, because in the moment I was really thinking like, you know, if I just wave in the middle of the street, it was crazy, but I really needed to pull somebody over to help me get my stuff back. But that just was not the way to do it. And I started speaking in English. I was like, please, somebody help me. And finally, after 10 minutes, somebody actually pulled over and helped me. He was like, oh, just call the cops. And I was like, no, like we can still get him, like chase the person down. And the guy didn't, I mean, he was really helpful, but his girlfriend, like, I don't know, it was just very frustrating for me because I was a young woman traveling, obviously not from that country, feeling very vulnerable. And I'm very thankful that the guy helped me, but it was crazy. He didn't even want to drive me to the station. He's like, no, we'll wait for the cops. The cops will drive you to the police station. His girlfriend was like, I don't want her in my car. And I was just like, this is crazy. Like, I really, like, I think it was a very low moment for me because I really thought that, sorry, I really thought that like people would be kind and people would be willing to help me out. And I don't know, it was just very hard. It was very hard for me to really experience the lack of compassion. And mind you, this is the morning, and mind you, this is the same day I got assaulted by police. So the story continues. But anyway, so luckily, thank God, I had really good friends who I called up, and they actually helped me out. They came to the police station, driving from like all the way across the city. Luckily, I had contacts. Luckily, I had somebody who helped me out, who talked to the cops, who explained to me like, hey, this is the cops from this country. You know, you have to be very patient with them. It's not the same. Like, just be very patient. So I was very thankful that I had friends who showed up for me, who helped me out, and who was there for me. I'm so thankful for them. But anyway, as we figured out, you know, the stuff wasn't coming back. The cops tried to help, but didn't really. That was a whole thing. I finally ended up at the hostel that I had booked. And from my experience with hostels, usually people are very nice, but well, anyway, so I go to the hostel later that night. You know, I show up, I tell them, hey, I don't have my credit card now. I'm going to get it figured out tomorrow. But I just need a place to stay right now. And luckily the hostel people were nice enough to be like, yeah, okay, that's fine as long as you pay tomorrow. Mind you, I think looking back now, I should have stayed with my friends who were from there. That's what I should have done. But in my head, I really had this mindset, and this is why I talk about transformation on my channel. I had this mindset where I was like, I'm not deserving to be at their place. It's asking for too much for me to stay with them. I need to go to my hostel, which is stupid because it's just like I just had a very traumatic experience. The right thing to have done would have been to stay with my friends, stay with people who I knew, stay with people I was comfortable with, go, you know, healing that experience. So then later that night, I go to the hostel, and there's a group of guys who were like, yeah, you know, we totally understand. Let's all go out. Let's celebrate so that you can, you know, feel better. That was not the thing to do. But I go out with them. They pull over to smoke some cigarettes. And these cops show up. And they don't really speak that much Spanish. And I don't speak a lot of Spanish, but I speak enough Spanish that I was able to communicate with the cops. And I was just like, hey, like, you're not right. Like, you're trying to steal money. Well, okay, so this is what I thought I said in my head, right? Really what I said in Spanish was like, no puedes, no puedes, how do you say it? No puedes, no aquí, like, no puedes, like, no, estás malo, like, which basically means, no, you can't. Not here. You are bad. Like, this is literally what I said to them. And in my head, I'm thinking like, oh, I'm pulling the Rosa Parks. Like, I'm telling them like they can't arrest us, you know? And I'm sure these guys were like, what the heck? And then I proceed to pull out my phone because I'm American, right? We have a lot of known history and known media on police brutality. This country also does too. But they, you know, they have a really good history, not good history, but notorious history of really police brutality at its best, police murders at its best, police, how do I put it? Serial killings from the police, basically, at its best. Really, that's really what it is. Anyway, so I pull out my phone thinking, you know, in my mind, I'm like, oh, I'm from the States, so this is the thing to do. And I'm just like, you know, I pull it out. And for them, you know, at first I'm thinking I'm 5'4", they ain't gonna do anything because I'm literally, what can I do? I'm a really petite person. I'm not gonna do anything to them, obviously. But I pull out my phone and I can tell it kind of changes something for them. And they're like, And they look at me, they're like, hey, where's your passport? And mind you, look, I'll admit, I had my passport, but I knew for a fact that when you give a passport to police in this country, they won't give it back. So it was not something that I wanted to do in the moment. So I told them I don't have it. it's at my hostel. Because I was like, there's no way I'm giving them a passport, because I know once I give to them, that's it, it's gone. And once you don't have your passport, it is so hard to get a new one. I had a friend who just went through this. The police in in a different city in the same country, they had taken away his passport for no reason, no reason. And this is another country where like a lot of like black travelers go to, but nobody really talks about how racist this country is. And it's very racist. It's crazy because even though they see black people, and even once you start to tell them, you know, you don't speak any Spanish, you don't speak enough Spanish to talk to the cops or whatever, to communicate with them, they still find ways to abuse their power. But anyway, so I tell them I don't have it. I get a little worried, so I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna do what my dad told me to do. Walk away from a fight. So I start walking away from the cops. And mind you, I'm in a group of like nine other guys, right? That I met at this hostel. And we're all travelers. You know, usually there's like a traveler's code, not with this group, and I'll explain why in a second. But there's a traveler's code. We have each other's backs. But I was like, you know, I need to get out of here. So I walked away, and walking back towards my hostel. Mind you, the hostel's like 5 minute, not even 5 minute walk, 2 minute walk away from where we were. And all of a sudden, I hit the concrete. My face is on the concrete. I'm like, what is going on? I'm in shock, and the only thing I can do is scream. That was the only thing I can do, was to scream, because I was just like, I don't know what just happened, but I'm on the floor. Somebody's on top of me. I just start screaming because that's the only thing I could do. And it was really, and the screaming started turning into tears because your girl just got robbed earlier that day. Like, it's like, what is going on, right? And anyway, so I'm screaming. Finally, I think at some point, because I just black out because I'm just like in shock. And finally, somebody comes out to help, and I feel the pressure getting off me. I get up and I run because I was just like, there's no way. This is crazy. I run. I look back. The cops are standing still. I go straight to the hostel. I keep on running until I'm deep inside the hostel, and I know the cops cannot get me there. And I just start sobbing. I'm sobbing. I'm like, what is going on? Mind you, the 9 men who I was with, ooh, I'm getting emotional, but the 9 men who I was with did nothing to help me, which is crazy. It's like, again, like, oh, girl, I'm not trying to, like, you know, cause anything, but the 9 men who I was with didn't do anything to help me. And it was a very difficult day. Luckily and thankfully, you know, I called my boyfriend, my ex-boyfriend, my boyfriend at the time, because I had somebody who I was able to call and talk to about what had just happened. And he was like, I'm so sorry you went through that. He's like, yeah, like, cops are very racist here. You have to be careful. And luckily he actually was kind of like my rock at the time. Cause I think if I didn't have him, I probably would have left the country like that. Like, I would have left, hop on a flight the next day, but I didn't leave. And luckily I had him. We kind of processed everything. I ended up staying with him and his family in another part of the country because I just felt so much safer with his family. I felt safer in his neighborhood, even though it's funny because a lot of people were like, you know, it's not as safe there. But for me, it was the safest place. It was the place where I felt protected. I knew his family would protect me. I knew his family would support me. I knew that not just support me, but I knew his family would keep me protected. You know, like, and even when I went back with him and his family, um, uh whenever I went out, they would make sure one of them was with me. Like, you know, so it's just like I really love them so much. And that's why, you know, I'm telling you this story. I'm not saying to not travel. I'm not saying to that this country is dangerous. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying that this is the moments where I really felt I gained confidence back again in humanity. And for me, it's these stories that I really want to share with y'all. It's these stories that I really think empower us to travel, because here I was in another country. And mind you, I didn't really even know his family like that, but they were so giving. This is the one thing that I love about, not all of them, but there's a handful of them that are so giving, who don't live in fear, and who really will support you and treat you like family. Oh, there's like another story I could tell you about when I arrived. Ugh, there's so many stories. I literally arrived and I didn't have a ride situation, and my phone service wasn't working, and literally a stranger who happened to live in the same neighborhood as the friend who I was visiting, she gave me a ride, and she actually let me stay at her place. Like, yeah, like just stuff like that. So for me, like, really, it's a really beautiful country, and but you have to understand, like, that's the thing that I learned about traveling. Every country you go to, there's good and bad people. Even me coming from the States, I could go to a town in the middle of nowhere, there might be a serial killer in that. Stories about this. So it doesn't matter where you go, there's always going to be bad stuff good and bad things, good and bad people. So you need to get a lot better at like assessing who's a good person, who's not a good person. That's why I make these shorts. But the biggest lesson that I learned is that there is faith in humanity. And we I think as human beings we really need to work on compassion. We really need to work on helping people. And if somebody is in danger, if somebody is hurt, we really need to, I don't know what happened in the past 50, 60, 70 years to make us have this lack of faith, but we really need to change this, and that's really why I'm here. That's why I made this channel, to talk about wellness and travel and transformation, because at the end of the day, I think once everybody starts to learn how to transform themselves and how to really change their mindset, change their well-being, I think we could really start to see progress in this world, really truly. But because I think the key is to start believing in yourself, right? And once you can believe in yourself to make that change, I think then we can start seeing change in the world around us. Then we can start, once we start having more compassion for ourselves, then we can start having more compassion for other people. But until we have compassion for ourselves, I think a lot of the stuff that we see today isn't going to change. I think we will continue to see people who see a young woman crying on the side of the street and drive past her, right? We will continue to see that, and I really want to change that with this. So with that, that is my story. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I'll see y'all later.